The state of Utah, their lawmakers believed that gender-affirming care is harmful to kids. When Utah Republicans passed a ban on gender-affirming care for children and teens in 2023, and let's read a little more about that ban first. Utah's Republican-dominated legislature on Friday gave final approval for a measure that would ban youth from receiving gender-affirming health care like surgery or puberty blockers, bypassing concerns raised by opponents about the measure's impact on transgender children and teens in the state. The bill went to the Republican Governor Spencer Cox, who hadn't yet at that point publicly taken a stance on the legislation. It comes as legislators from at least 18 states consider similar bills targeting health care for trans youth. Montana lawmakers discussed the measure there on Friday. The bills have strong opposition from critics who say it's irresponsible to meddle in important decisions that should be left to parents and children, and I would guess their doctors, but they didn't include that in the article. Utah's measure prohibits transgender surgery for youth, which is stupid because the youth, if you're under 18, you don't get transgender surgeries. Every single clinic that I've looked up that performs these procedures, top surgery, bottom surgery, etc., for the purpose of being gender affirming, none of them do it till after 18. You have to turn 18, you have to be on hormones for a year, and then they'll do it. But you have to jump through all of those hoops first. So there's no child that's getting surgeries done. And there are puberty blockers. Puberty blockers are legitimate medicine, and they can be given to people who get early onset puberty first, who, I forget, there's another official word for it, and I'm blanking on the official word for it as we stand, but there is another official word for puberty that hits somebody that's early. But you need those puberty blockers for those kids. And if those kids can take those puberty blockers and be fine, then why couldn't potentially a young trans person take those puberty blockers to prevent, the hormones and everything from affecting their body, from getting them to grow up and making it even harder for them to transition later on in life. So Utah's measure prohibits transgender surgery from youth as well as hormone treatments, yada, yada, yada. Of course, how many people are getting this done? They make a huge issue. They make mountains out of molehills all the time. So they wanted to protect vulnerable kids from treatments that could cause long-term harm. Years later, the results of a study commissioned under the same law contradict the claim. And the Republican-led legislature is facing pressure to reconsider the restrictions. Utah's Department of Health and Human Services and experts from the state leading health organization concluded from a study of thousands of trans people that gender-affirming care generated positive mental health and psychosocial functioning outcomes. Policies that prevent access to hormone therapy for minors cannot be justified based on scientific findings or concerns about potential regret in the future, the report states. The agency is not taking a position on whether lawmakers should lift the statewide ban, but the person there in the article reminded lawmakers that they had intended for the prohibition to be temporary until the state could conduct its own research. Utah is among 27 states that have adopted laws restricting or banning gender-affirming medical care for trans minors, who Republican politicians have made a political lightning rod. Federal judges have struck down bans in Arkansas, Florida, Montana as unconstitutional, although the Federal Appeals Court has stayed the Florida ruling, and the law in Kansas is not yet being enforced. And the other article from The Independent, Utah's lawmakers said gender-affirming care is harmful to kids. Their own study contradicts it. Utah's Republicans passed a ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth in 2023 and argued it was needed to protect vulnerable kids from treatments that could cause them long-term harm. While Utah Republicans passed a ban on gender-affirming health care for children and teens in 2023, they argued it was needed to protect vulnerable kids from treatments that could cause long-term harm. Years later, the results of a study commissioned under the same law contradict that claim, and the Republicans in the legislature are facing pressure to reconsider the restrictions. Utah's Department of Health and Human Services said experts from the state's leading health organizations concluded from a study of thousands of trans people that the gender-affirming care generated positive mental health and psychosocial functioning outcomes. It's as simple as that. But yet these people are obsessed with the genitals of children. And you tell that to them, they get mad. They get so upset that you think that they're just molesting, that they're obsessed with those kids or whatever. They're a threat to those kids. I think they're a threat to those kids. They're probably a bigger threat to molest those kids than the claims that it's the trans people that are out to get your kids, molest your kids, etc., groom your kids. Because all the claims that have been made about, trans folk, LGBTQA folks is that they want to groom your kids so that they can molest them. But yet you keep seeing Republican after Republican after Republican elected official getting found guilty of what? All the things that they're accusing trans folk of doing. So let's go down. Let's a little bit. Utah Republicans passed a ban. Need to protect. Let's see. I think that's basically the same wording of the previous article, so we're not going to worry about that one. But anyway, I don't have any faith in my mind that these people in Utah will do the right thing here, because it's Utah. It's Utah. Bunch of conservative, bunch of Mormons. Who tend to be... I know Mormons who are not conservative. I know Mormons who hate this president. So it's not end-all and be-all of you're a Mormon, you're going to be supportive of these horrible policies, this horrible president, etc. There are plenty of Mormons who understand how horrible this president is and who are being very vocal about it. So, but I don't expect the state of Utah to do anything that actually applies what they've learned in the study. That would require that these Republican elected officials have the ability and the capacity and the capability and the desire to learn. And I see no evidence to the contrary. So anyway, what do you think? Agree or disagree? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel. Of course, unless you're a trans-hating Nazi, have a good day.